Okay, first off, I'm going to start off with an apology because they are actually building a house next door, and for the foreseeable future it's not going to get any quieter here, so this is as good as it gets. Today I want to talk about what size tires can I fit. Now I've got two WJs, two Grand Cherokees here, 99-04s. I'm going to use these for an example, but the reality, the theory behind this is the same for pretty much everything. So I'm going to talk about a few different factors that kind of help explain why this is a tough question to answer, and some of sort of the myths and some of the stuff that's sort of the false information, or just to clear up why you get different answers on stuff. Okay, first of all, the one over here, that one, it's got 4 inches of lift and 37s underneath it. This one over here has 2 inches of lift and 32s. Has a 250, 570, 517, basically a Rubicon sized wheel and tire. They're Rubicon wheels. This one's 37 12.5s on 17x8s with 4 1/4 inch back spacing, Pro Comp alloys, and Milestar Patagonia tires. I'm going to use these for some examples. First thing I wanted to talk about, one of the biggest factors on what size tire fit is your wheel offset. These have like 6 1/4 inches of back spacing, I believe, something like that. It's over 6 inches. These ones have 4 1/4 inches. So you can see there's more lip out here. This tire hangs out further. Now, why does that matter? Well, what happens when your tire turns? It doesn't just turn. This tire being set in further inside, closer to the body, when it turns, it'll more or less just turn. It doesn't travel very far forwards and backwards. The further out you come with this tire, you're getting into what they call your scrub radius, and you're making that bigger. So as you steer, your tire's actually traveling forwards and backwards. So when you're talking about what size tire fits, the back spacing on your wheel, or the total difference, if you put spacers on, you're essentially increasing your back spacing. You're getting further away from that hub. Where that helps you, the reason you do that is you get into hard parts like your sway bar, your control arms down here. You'll hit on those. You can hit on some of your stuff inside here. And now I mentioned the word hard parts. I'm going to break stuff down into two sort of sections. Hard parts are things that you really can't change on your vehicle without a lot of work. So when you, on the WJ, you get inside here, you're getting into your crash safety cell. You just can't pound that back. I mean, that's really hard. Outside here, this outside part of your fender, this is what I'd call a soft part. This is really easy to bend back. You can see there's a dent in here from me hammering this one back even on the 32s. Soft parts. So you've got your sheet metal on your fender. That's really easy to cut. Anybody can do that. It's not a big deal. It's not rocket science. Okay, over here on the WJ, washer bottle sits right here. In fact, it used to go right up there. I call that a soft part. It's easy to relocate. You can change that. Okay. Now the other big issue, people are like, well, how much lift do I need to fit these tires on? Well, there's a problem with that. Look, control arm's bolted right there, goes to the axle right there. Okay. Doesn't matter how much lift you have, your tire is going to rub at the same spot. It's in the same location, front to back. What matters is how much bump stop you actually have in there. Because as your tire comes up, you can see the radius in here. You're starting to lose clearance. So as you come up, you're going to start getting closer to that. And so you're going to start hitting. Okay? So it's not about how much lift I have, it's how much bump stop do I want. You put the lift in so you can maintain your up travel as far as tire fitment goes. Because if you just put a whole bunch of bump stop in and you don't have any lift, you're not going to have any up travel. It's going to start riding rough. Okay, this one is actually on stock bump stop, stock arms at 2 inches, and I've got a 4-inch lift front shock, the BDS 4-inch shocks, and I can actually, my bump stop and my shock bottom out about the same time, which isn't ideal. I should add a little bit of hair bump stop to this, but I can fully cycle this. I can pull the coil spring right out, and I have just enough clearance that this will cleanly bottom out, and I can drive. And I have about half of my steering, which isn't perfect, but it's not bad for where I'm at. Okay. So these are some of the factors that come into play on how you fit stuff. So on here, what I did was I cut just below the body line here, and I actually used the back side of the body line as a crease to actually roll my fender so it's rigid. And that's how I cut out my front to clear these 32s. My plan is actually to go to a 33-12-5 on a 16-inch rim with a 4¼ inch backspace. Now, why am I running a 16-inch rim? One, because I got them cheap. Two, I prefer 15s, but the 15s, to clear the brakes, you've got more offset. You're about 3.5 inches. On the WJ, I feel like a 4 to 4¼ inch backspace is the perfect balance. It gets you far enough away from your hard parts like your firewall and your steering that you can run a wider tire, and yet you're not super wide. You're not affecting your scrub radius any more than necessary. With a 3.5 inch, you start getting into, on an 8 wide wheel, 3.5 inch, you start running into issues like with your fenders. You've got to go higher because your tire's out further. You're not actually tucking it up inside your fender, you're hitting the outside of your fenders. On the front, that's not such a big deal. Now, in the rear here, I'm going to show you a little something on the WJ, why your offset again matters. So watch this tape measure till I go up. That's almost 4 inches to the top of the wheel well. This wheel well is not flat. It is in fact domed. So with a skinny tire like I'm running on these 255s, when I flex or when I travel, I'm up at the high part of the dome, okay? So this is curved this way, but the tire actually fits. It's narrow enough, it fits in there. When you start running a wider tire, you're coming further and further out on this dome, and at 3.5 inches of back spacing, you're out here. So you've basically got 4 inches less up travel than you do on a skinny tire. So that's why that matters, okay? Now, if you look over on this one, to get the 37s in, this one is actually, this part of the wheel well right here is actually the factory wheel well to right here, and then out, this actually comes up. So as I flex, my tire doesn't come straight up, it actually twists this way and comes up. So I've actually gained a lot of room. I gained over the stock fender, I'm up probably 5 inches, 5.5 inches to where I actually rub the fender now, okay? And then on the rear, when you talk about hard parts, there's the other part. So you've got your door. So lots of people cut to right here, but you can actually go a little further than that. So on this one, I've actually cut the whole lip off the door to the hard part of the door. So I didn't cut the window track, but I actually cut the whole seam off. So this is actually my wheel well. This is my tight point in here. This whole section, you can see by comparison, is gone. And that's how I got 37s on the rear with 4 inches of lift. And now I am actually stretched 3/4 of an inch back, but that's not very much to get a 37 in that small wheel well. So, and again, for comparison to here. So right now, by 32, it clears this lip all the way through the wheel well. So I can actually travel. This will fully tuck up in here. But any bigger tire than this 255, 75, 17 on a factory wheel, like a factory Wrangler wheel, like 6 inches of back spacing, anything bigger than that, it is not going to fit in this wheel well. So this wheel well domed out is basically like will fit a 33 tucked up in there. If you get rid of all the low-hanging fruit, that means cut all this out, cut this up so it's flat, so you can come out with a wider tire like a 1250. This hole needs to be trimmed almost to this body line to get this lip out, and then this whole lip out here has to come off if you want to tuck with stock bump stops. So that's what has to be done. If you don't want to go to a bigger, if you don't want to do that much cutting, like I said, this 255 is basically all that'll fit in the rear. Up front, you're actually smaller than that if you don't want to relocate your washer fluid bottle and some of the soft parts. So hopefully that clears up some of the issues here on what fits and why do certain things fit, or why do people say, oh, well, I cleared this tire and then you put them on and they rub. Well, you know, there's some factors to look at. What do you want to cut? What do you want to get rid of? You know, like I said, the WJs, they're cheap. To me, cutting one up doesn't really matter. I don't know. If you don't want to cut one up, to me, you don't want to wheel it or get the most out of it, because quite frankly, the stock wheel wells are way too small. Even cut up, they're small. So like I said, if you don't want to cut one up, buy a Wrangler. That's my advice. But you know what? Again, I'll be honest with you, on 30-inch tires or 31-inch tires, these things can be very, very capable on a budget as well. So anyway, so hopefully some of that kind of clears up why certain tires fit, why certain tires don't fit, and why it's a tough question to ask. So on a WJ, the way the washer fluid bottle's positioned over here, okay, I'm going to sum this up. Over here, basically all you can clear off of that stock washer fluid bottle with a stock bump stop is a stock tire. There's just no two ways about it. What's going to happen, you'll rub it with your inner fender liners. You'll maybe rub it, you'll be fine. What's going to happen sooner or later, you're going to get twisted up, you're going to back up, and you're going to rip the pump out of the washer fluid bottle and smash it all up. I've done that to 3 of them now. On all 3 of my WJs, I've tried keeping it. I just get rid of it. So that's the short of it on this. There's just no two ways about it. Once you get rid of that and you trim a little bit of sheet metal off in here and go up to the next body line, I've hammered back the firewall right here, and I've rolled this edge. This edge usually sticks out a little bit more, and I've hammered this in as flat as I can get it. And this will clear a 32-inch tire. It will rub a little tiny bit, but it's got to be skinny. Now, for me to go to a 16 bite and a 33 12.5, I'm going to go to 4¼ inch backspace. So I'm going to move the inside of the tire out 2 inches. What that's going to do is that's going to get me further out into the soft stuff, so I can cut the fender a little bit. I can push this back a little bit and make room for it, even on a 2-inch lift. I might actually stretch my wheelbase a little bit, and that gets a little easier on this actually particular white Jeep because it's right-hand drive. So my track bar, my steering box, like on my red one here, the problem I've got over here is the fact that my differential, my track bar, and my steering box and pitman arm are all fighting for the same space. Now on the right-hand drive, my steering box and track bar are over on that side, my pumpkin's on this side. So it actually makes it a little bit easier to stay low and tuck everything up. Okay. Anyway, so if you have any questions or any other factors and stuff that I missed, like I said, this is just kind of an entry-level guide to sort of what fits, what doesn't fit, and why everything sort of is the way it is. But again, so you can see my steering box and stuff on this side. So like I said, I think this one's easier to keep low. 2 inches of lift, I think it's actually a little low for what I want. I think 4 inches is about the right area. The WJ's, even a 4-inch lift, is still pretty low. So I think it would work a little better. But anyway, what fits, what doesn't fit, and that's why.